Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week and a brand new episode of Cinema Smackdown. My name is Drew Bronson, and last night it was one hell of a show and one hell of a night at Deadline. So we're going to be talking about everything that went down at Deadline as well as who I thought I wanted to win. On top of that, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Godzilla -1, which I'm already going to say is probably movie of the year. And then after that, I'm going to be talking about and listing off some of my favorite movies that I've seen throughout this year. So, without further ado, let's jump right into Deadline. Starting everything off on the kickoff show, we had Axiom versus Nathan Frazer. Now, these two gentlemen have had a best of 3 saga some time ago in NXT, and it was absolutely incredible. They wrote their next chapter again last night in Bridgeport. This match was supposed to take place last Tuesday on NXT, but because of the big brawl between all the competitors in the Women's Iron Survivor Tournament, they just stormed back out into the arena, and the match was deemed a no contest. The bell was rung, and Axiom and Frazer just got the hell out of Dodge, leading to them having this match on the Deadline kickoff show. Axiom was able to win this match, and mutual respect was shown between Frazer and Axiom. Moving on to the main pay-per-view, as soon as they went live on Peacock, the first person to come out into the arena, they didn't even play the cold open yet. The first person to walk out into the arena was Shawn Michaels. And this is where things got very, very interesting, because earlier yesterday, CM Punk posted on Instagram that he missed his flight and he was in Bridgeport and if there was anything to do. He then took to Twitter about that, saying the same thing. NXT took notice, retweeted it, and then Shawn Michaels retweeted saying that they should meet face to face, with Triple H retweeting Shawn's tweet saying that he's gotta see this. So Shawn Michaels is out in the ring welcoming everybody to NXT Deadline. And then, just like that, CM Punk's music plays and he's walking out to an NXT ring. Now, after Punk and Michaels shared a moment in the ring together, he began to raise the question on where he's going to sign. Because keep in mind, tomorrow night on Raw, CM Punk makes his decision on where he's going to sign. Whether it was going to be Raw, SmackDown, and he even is considering NXT. Look, Tuesday nights are always a madhouse. For those that do go every week, it's an absolute madhouse. But if Punk were to show up, just like Triple H said at Survivor Series, hell would freeze over once again. But most likely I could see him going to Monday Night Raw. So it was just a little bit of a teaser, but we'll get that question answered tomorrow night on Raw when CM Punk officially makes his decision on where he's going to sign in the WWE. After that, we finally got into the in-ring action at Deadline. First up was the North American Championship match between Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Dragon Lee. Now, last week I was talking about it being Wesley for the North American Championship, but unfortunately he has to undergo back surgery and is going to be out for at most a year. So, Dom thought he was going to take the night off, but that's not the case, as Rey Mysterio would choose Wesley's replacement in Dragon Lee. Who would have thought? Lee is taking Lee's place. Anyway, so we get to Deadline, and Rey Mysterio is on commentary while Dragon and Dominic are fighting it out in the ring. But the interesting thing about all of this is we have a brand new NXT North American champion in Dragon Lee. Now, here's what I'll say about this. Am I happy that Dragon Lee finally has its first singles championship? Yes. Yes, I am. But am I happy he got it at the expense of Dominic? Not entirely, no. Because the Judgment Day are the hottest thing in WWE right now. And they just have Dominic lose like that to Dragon Lee? Look, hopefully something happens on Monday and Dom can get the championship back. Because this just doesn't feel right to me right now. Dragon Lee is the brand new NXT North American champion. Next up, we had the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. In this match, we had Kalani Jordan, Tiffany Stratton, Blair Davenport, Fallon Henley, and Lash Legend. The two competitors that started in the match at 1 and 2 were Fallon Henley and Blair Davenport. Now, as they're approaching that first 5-minute mark, Blair Davenport was able to score the first fall and send Fallon Henley into the penalty box. The next person to come out at the 5-minute mark was Tiffany Stratton. Now, as of this point, no more falls have been scored. The next person to come out at 10 minutes was Kalani Jordan, and then after her, at 15 minutes, Lash Legend. Now, in the span of 70 seconds, after Lash Legend entered the match, she was able to score not one, but 2 falls. But how? Here's a clip from Deadline. Got that 2-for-1 special by pinning both Fallon and Stratton's shoulders to the mat to score 2 falls in 1 pin. Now, I honestly think that this Women's Iron Survivor match was better than last year's, especially with how many points that were racked up. In the end, it was Blair Davenport who was able to steal a fall from Tiffany Stratton to secure 3 falls in total, and by the time the clock hit 25 minutes, Blair Davenport had the most falls and is your Iron Survivor. And on January 2nd at NXT New Year's Evil, she will challenge Lyra Valkyria for the NXT Women's Championship. Now, after the match, Blair was saying that she will see Valkyria at New Year's Evil, to which Lyra Valkyria came out into the arena just standing on the stage and looking down to the ring at Blair, only for her to get knocked out by who? Cora Jade is back in NXT. I can't remember the last time we saw Cora. I'm sure it was at some point earlier this year, but she has been out for almost the entirety of 2023. And she is back, and she has set her sights on Lyra Valkyria and the NXT Women's title picture. Now, while Nikita showed up and attacked Blair Davenport this past Tuesday, Cora Jade turned the women's division on its head. Like, this is a big deal. But Cora Jade is back, and Blair Davenport is the new number 1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship. After that, Lexis King went one-on-one in his first premium live event match against Carmelo Hayes. Now, for the past couple of months, ever since Trick got attacked backstage prior to Halloween Havoc, there's always been some speculation about who attacked Trick. Now, courtesy of NXT Anonymous, we have seen some security footage on that night of the attack on October 17th, where one week we saw it was Lexis King just looking at his phone, but then notices Trick Williams walk into a separate room and then follows him. That's where the footage cuts off. Then the next week, we see footage of Trick talking with Mello. And then after Trick steps aside to do whatever he needs to do, Mello hops on his phone. Doing what? Well, we don't know. And there continues to be questions about who attacked Trick. So to settle everything, hopefully, these two men went one-on-one at Deadline. I'll be honest, Mello has had better matches than this. I won't say it's his worst. Let's just say it's mediocre. All due respect, Mello, but this is one of your more mediocre matches of your career. Mello was able to get the victory, and then Lexis King grabbed the mic and he confessed that it was not him that attacked Trick. So, on one hand, it helps narrow it down to Carmelo Hayes, but yet right now we don't have any clear and concise evidence to prove that it was him. On the other hand, this raises more questions about who else throughout NXT could have attacked Trick Williams, because these were two prime suspects. But Mello got the victory over Lexis King, and we still don't have any answers on who attacked Trick Williams. Next up, we have the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. 5 men, a whole lot of lean meat. Dijak, Braun Breaker, Trick Williams, Josh Briggs, and Tyler Bate, all fighting for the right to be named the number 1 contender and face the NXT champion, whoever it may be, on January 2nd at New Year's Evil. Now, this was one of the craziest and one of the wildest matches I have seen at Deadline. I would even say it surpassed last year's Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, and that match went nuts. This year, it just turned the dial up to 11. But what's interesting about it is when Braun Breaker entered the match at number 5, this is where the match got turned on its head. So we hit the 15-minute mark and Braun Breaker goes out to the ring, and he just spears people left and right, scoring 3 straight falls, putting him in the lead. Now, he has played defense for a little bit until Dijak and Tyler Bate caught up to him. So at this point, we have a 3-way tie at 3 falls each. Now, Trick Williams at this point hasn't scored any falls. But by the time we hit that 23.5-minute mark, as soon as Trick Williams gets out of the penalty box, he was just lightning speed, scoring falls left and right. He eventually would score 4 straight falls by pinning each of the other competitors consecutively. First pinning Briggs, then pinning Dijak, then pinning Bate, and then in the last 10 seconds of the match, the clock is ticking down. He counters the spear with a jumping knee, pins Breaker 1, 2, 3 to score 4 falls, and Trick Williams is the Iron Survivor and the new number 1 contender to the NXT Championship, and he will face either Ilya Dragunov or Baron Corbin for the NXT Championship at New Year's Evil. I gotta tell you, Trick was my pick to win this match, and he delivered. But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear what some of my friends had to say last night at the watch party.
Trick! Whoop that 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 trick! He went from start to finish to 0 and came out 4 out of nowhere.
It took 23.5 minutes
23.
for Trick to get 1 pin. And this match went from totally racist to Trick winning.
Whoop
Trick
that
won.
trick! Whoop that trick! Whoop that trick! Whoop that trick! Whoop that trick!
We have fun, that's for damn sure. After I took some time to collect myself and catch my breath, we got right into the steel cage match between Kiana James and Roxanne Perez. Now, this is a rivalry that has been brewing for a couple of months, and they have been brawling it out in parking lots, backstage. They went to Devil's Playground at Halloween Havoc, and their next chapter was written inside a steel cage at Deadline. The main point of interest for me in this match was right near the end, actually, as it looks like Kiana James is trying to escape the cage and win. Roxanne pulls her in, and Kiana brings in a steel chair. Now Roxanne takes the chair from Kiana, and she's stepping back towards the gate, hoping to leave herself and win the match. Only for her to get stopped and gets the door slammed right into her face by Izzy Dame. For those of you who don't know, Izzy Dame is one of the brand new stars in NXT that came via the Women's Breakout Tournament. And Izzy has actually been going out against Roxanne backstage in the locker room for a couple of weeks now. So, I think this was genius by Kiana James. Having Izzy Dame help you out when Roxanne thinks that no one will, that was genius. And Kiana James was able to get the victory over Roxanne Perez inside of the steel cage. Alright. That's everything else out of the way. It's time for the match that I have been waiting for in the main event of NXT Deadline. Baron Corbin, Ilya Dragunov for the NXT Championship. And I thought there could be no better way to start off this match, but Baron Corbin found a way to kick everything off with a bang. His entrance. Not only is Baron Corbin's music something I love, but his premium live event entrances are something else. Back at No Mercy, he had the Ghost Rider theme with the bike. And at Deadline last night, he brought the bike back, but this time with a Hellboy themed entrance. Like, when I saw the font of how his name was on the Tron, that's when it hit me. I was like, this is Hellboy. Like, this is great. He even had the red sleeve to symbolize Hellboy's giant red fist from the movies. It was amazing. Dragunov came out next, breathing smoke and all that, because he's an absolute maniac, and I mean that in the best way possible. And this match was as physical can get. I'm talking constant back and forth. Even some occasions where Dragunov looked beat by Corbin. But in the end, it took a trifecta of H-bombs to put down Baron Corbin, as well as it being followed by a Torpedo Moscow. And there was one point before Dragunov hit him with the torpedo that he was talking to Corbin, but not even Vic could make out what Dragunov was saying to Corbin. Either way, maybe we'll find out Tuesday. I don't know. But here's the big headline coming out of Deadline. Ilya Dragunov is still the NXT champion. Meaning, at New Year's Evil, we will be getting Trick and Dragunov Chapter 3. These two men have fought twice before on NXT TV. Their first encounter happened, I think, in October of 2022. And then their last encounter happened at Heatwave this past August. Both of them were instant classics. Maybe the best matches Trick Williams has had in his career came from Ilya Dragunov. And it's going to happen again in the main event of New Year's Evil, Tuesday, January 2nd. This match next year, I hope this is a match that it has to set the tone for NXT going forward into 2024. I cannot think of a better opponent, have a better match on a better night like this. Well, except Stand and Deliver. That's the only exception. This is going to be something special. Ilya Dragunov, still the NXT champion, facing Trick Williams, the number one contender, in the main event of NXT New Year's Evil on Tuesday, January 2nd, live at 8 o'clock on USA Network. At the start of December, we got a brand new movie in theaters, Godzilla -1. Basically, this is almost like a modern version of the original Godzilla movie, when really it's just paying tribute to the original movie, or just having lots of references in the plot, the design of Godzilla. This movie could be the answer to the debate and the question of what is the movie of the year. Now, there's many other great movies, which I'm going to bring up a little later on, but this movie is something special. And the fact that they did all this with a budget of under $15 million. Under $15 million, and they made that, is absolutely surreal. My first thoughts walking out of the theater after watching -1 was that this Godzilla put the Warner Brothers Godzilla to shame. Like, that is how you do Godzilla. That is how you make it a threat. That's how you scare audiences, because there were moments in the movie where I was a little scared myself. This movie will be cherished forever. Now, it is a Japanese movie, so there are subtitles in the movie that you're going to have to read. But I feel like you could watch this movie without reading the subtitles and still understand what is going on. One of my friends was saying that too. Definitely find time to go and check out Godzilla -1, and you can thank me later. But, sticking with movies, I'm going to go ahead and list off some of my favorite movies from 2023. With the exception of Godzilla -1, because that, just make sure you go watch Godzilla -1. Please bear in mind that as I'm going through these movies, I am not listing them in any particular order. These are just some of the, out of all the movies that I've seen, these are just some that I say are some of the best that I've seen this year. So, no particular order. But I want to start things off with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I'm not a big player of Dungeons and Dragons, never played it, but this movie was a lot of fun. The cast, the stars, the VFX, all of it, it was just perfect for this movie. It definitely works. And if I were to give Dungeons and Dragons a rating, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Next up, the Mario movie. The Mario Brothers movie is a phenomenon that will be talked about for generations. And just gonna say this, it is one of the few movies that I have seen in theaters a total of 8 times. That has happened with 2 other movies for me. The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Those are the other 2 movies that I've seen in theaters a total of 8 times. But Mario was definitely something special. Although it didn't have everything, if they did, it would just feel like too much. So I feel like what we got in the movie was just fine, and everybody loved it. After that, this is an interesting one. A movie called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Now, this is a movie adaptation of a popular book by Judy Blume of the same name. But what really had me hooked on seeing this movie was the lead actress, Abby Ryder Fortson, who you may remember as Cassie from the first Ant-Man movie. Abby Ryder Fortson is one of those stars that is on the rise in Hollywood. And this movie shows that. I truly believe this is some of her best work. I'm also a big fan of coming-of-age movies. It's just, those movies really sit well with me. And absolutely loved it. Great work, Abby. Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. What else could I say about Guardians 3? Besides that it is the single most emotional movie that we got since Avengers Endgame. Absolutely incredible. Definitely one of the best Marvel movies in the past 4 years or so. Now, next up is The Machine. Because it's Bert freaking Kreischer with Mark Hamill. Now, for those that don't understand the plot of this movie, but yet you have seen Bert Kreischer perform on stage, this is basically a movie adaptation of his most popular story about him joining the Russian mafia while he was in college. And it was absolutely funny from start to finish. If you haven't seen it, it is on Netflix, and you can go watch it right now. Across the Spider-Verse. It took a while to get to this sequel, but it was worth the wait. It was originally supposed to come out in October of last year, but it got pushed back for a handful of months. And definitely one of the best cliffhangers I've seen in a Marvel movie. Absolutely incredible. I'm sorry if I'm not saying much about these movies, but I'm doing this on the fly, so there's not a whole lot I can think of to say. Next up, Barbie. Barbie is a one-of-a-kind movie. Stellar music, excellent casting. There were many aspects of this movie that were done to perfection, including Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling singing I'm Just Ken, and out in the world there's actually Ken merchandise. It's so good. Gotta love Barbie. Gran Turismo. I have never played the game myself, but I know about it. I know well enough about it to understand this movie. Gran Turismo is a movie I fear people will sleep on, because it is one of the best video game adaptations made. Now, it's not the single best one. I mean, I was just talking about Mario a little bit ago. But for a video game adaptation, brilliant. And the fact that this is also based on a true story. David Harbour was awesome in this. I mean, there's also many more, some that I've already talked about. But yeah, those are just some other movies that I've seen this year that I am a huge fan of. Now, next week, I'm not so sure what's on tap. I mean, we'll figure that out when we get there. But yeah, those are some of my favorite movies that I've seen this year. And if you haven't seen any of them, I highly recommend you go check them out. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it this week for Cinema Smackdown. Please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to get notified when new episodes come out every Sunday. And I'll see you guys next week.